Hi there, you're with the Birth Whisperer, sharing global wisdom for confident childbirth. My name is Anna Wild, and today I am so pleased to be talking with Debra Pascali Bonaro. Debra is a pioneer in reminding humanity that birth can be full of pleasure and delight. So if you're interested in having a birth with more pleasure, then you're in the right place. Debra Pascali Bonaro has been featured on ABC's 2020, Good Morning Russia, the NBC Today show, Discovery Health, in the New York Times, the LA Times, the UK Times, as well as numerous parenting and health magazines around the world. Debra has trained thousands of doulas and birth professionals in the practices of gentle birth support. She is the creator and director of the fantastic movie Orgasmic Birth, and if you haven't seen it, watch it. Debra is a sought-after international and inspirational speaker and co-author of the book Orgasmic Birth, Your Guide to a Safe, Satisfying and Pleasurable Birth Experience. Debra's newest offerings are the Orgasmic Birth Virtual Conference and the Orgasmic Birth From Pain to Power online childbirth education experience. Let's head into orgasmic birth, because I know this is a mysterious subject still, even though you've been doing this for years. For many people, when they first hear about orgasmic birth, it can bring up some strange feelings. So how would you explain orgasmic birth to someone?
Orgasmic birth is allowing yourself to birth fully in your power with respect and dignity and being a part of decision making where you're calling the shots. It's really for any woman and her partner that takes birth back and does it in her way. A lot of people have the misconception. They hear orgasmic and in their mind they hear orgasm. And I always want to hold that those women that have what I love to call a birthgasm are blessed. And, you know, orgasmic birth is broad enough to include those women that experience the sensation of orgasm in birth. But to me, there's a full range in there of pleasure, of bliss, of joy, of ecstasy, of challenge, of release. I feel I had an orgasmic birth, not with a birthgasm, never happened, but with that sense of release and welcoming my baby my way with joy and dignity. So I appreciate you asking that question, because I feel like society uses so much negativity around birth that we're not using a full language of pleasure. And orgasmic birth to me is opening up the language and honoring that women have choices and many ways to birth their babies.
Oh, thank you so much for clarifying that, Debra, because it really, I mean, it wouldn't be odd to get the impression that orgasmic birth means having orgasms through your birth or birthgasms. And yet the term itself, I know that when I first heard it, I felt a little nervous because it touches on sexuality. And the idea that a sexually pleasurable experience was possible was just like out of my comfort zone. We just don't hear that mentioned so much. And so for many of us, it can seem like a bit of a crazy concept to start with. So to have a pleasurable birth experience, is that just a freak event that happens for some people, for some lucky women, or is it something that most women are able to experience?
I think most women can experience it if they allow themselves to, one, tap into their sensuality and sexuality. And I want to honor, just as I talked about our conference, that, you know, for a lot of us, our past brings challenges. For some of us, we're survivors of sexual abuse. And I want to really honor that the relationship between sexuality and their body can be challenged. So the first step would really to go deeper into healing and a positive, pleasurable birth. For many women, if you've seen our documentary, Helen in our film reclaims her body as a survivor and is able to find more pleasure because of that healing that she brought. So we have to honor the fullness, you know, of birth. But and yes, how did we get away from birth being sexual? It's, you know, Ina Gaskin, the energy that gets the baby in, gets the baby out. So I think that we need to open up the discussion, but honor that if you haven't had a healthy relationship with sexuality, then pregnancy is a really important time to look for it. The next aspect of finding pleasure in birth is being in a place that will allow you to have that sacred, intimate experience. And I love to say to women all the time, like, plan the most romantic evening in your mind right now and think of where you would be and what the lights would be like and what kind of music might you play and what smells would you want to smell and what kind of touch would you want, either of yourself or if you felt safe with a partner. And just in that short analogy, how many of you are in a hospital? So, hospital birth would be a place that most women would find very difficult if I said, I want you to go plan a sensuous evening there. So there are just so many elements that people say, well, that's impossible. Well, it is hard for people in our current model, but there are many ways that you can transform that space, that you can choose more carefully where and with whom and how you give birth so that you have the respect and the sacredness and the privacy so that you can experience pleasure. Because I believe it's every woman's birthright to give birth with that ecstatic, blissful joy. I don't think that it should be part of your birth plan, or I call them birth desires or wishes, to have an orgasm. I think that I don't want any woman listening in to think that she needs to add one more thing to that list. I think the women that have it happen are blessed, but that's not something that's a goal to achieve. But to experience pleasure in the broadest sense, in joy and ecstasy, definitely should be something that should be in your desires.
Oh, thank you so much, Debra. I know for myself, having given birth to 2 babies and having really special home birth experiences, I know I'd actually, part of me, I'm not going to have any more children, but part of me would love to give birth 3 or 4 more times just so that I can give birth, and create that more sensual environment. And I think, like what you're saying about planning a date and making it really beautiful and sensual, I'd love to do that again, but I'm not going to have any more children. So, Debra, one thing you mentioned about the pregnancy period being a really important time, that if there are some difficult sexual experiences or issues with your relationship with your body, or if you've experienced trauma, pregnancy being an important time to look into those experiences and perhaps find some healing or get support to experience some healing. How do you do that? That can be really scary.
It can be. And I really applaud and thank you for saying that, because I really do want to honor the women that are survivors and give themselves that time and space. Or, most of us face challenges, but it's easier sometimes to ignore them rather than to dive into them. So first, I always say in many communities around the world, we're seeing birth therapists that are really great therapists that are specializing in childbirth. And if you have someone like that in your community, that's a gift, because whether it's just fears or challenges or wherever in your life you want to focus, they usually can begin to support you. And if they're not the right person, they know the resources to send you out. There are also many good websites now that are really looking at women that are survivors or having past traumas. And one that I love, Penny Simpkin, a mentor of mine, a founder of Doulas of North America and the world, and many others are a part of, is called Patch, PATTCH.org, and many good resources there, and many good books that are on these topics too. So if women can just begin to reach out, and honestly, most midwives, doulas, childbirth educators do really keep some resources and know what's local in their own community. So I would connect to the birth keepers in your own region and see if they can refer you.
That's a lot of really helpful information, Debra. I think it's really ironic that sometimes we have to go into the uncomfortable to get more comfortable.
Yes, And that's a great way of saying it. But it's so true. I think so many women deprive themselves of a pleasurable birth because they don't face even their fears. I was talking with someone earlier today, and we talk a lot about it in our virtual conference, and that women just fears stop their labor and hold them back from being able to fully release and enjoy the process of labor and birth. And so we must go deep. And I love how you say that, to kind of really look at what's uncomfortable to get more comfortable. Well said.
It sounds like you're saying that exploring birth from a more sensual, pleasurable aspect or perspective can actually in some ways help you to heal your relationship with your own sexuality, maybe help with your own sexual experience in some way?
You know, that's an awesome question, and there are some researchers right now that are looking at that. I'm so happy that our film and some of our work is spurring people to do master's and PhD theses on this. But I don't have data to support that, but I have so many individual stories. Women come up to me all the time and say that by really taking on this approach and allowing themselves to heal and then to have a powerful birth that transformed them. One woman said to me, all the years of therapy couldn't do anything like a powerful birth could. And she lobbed off, her own words, I lobbed off all the heads of all the people that had ever violated me in labor and reclaimed my body. And I get women all the time that'll even say they couldn't orgasm prior and they weren't able to fully let go to experience the fullness of their sexuality. And by doing the work in pregnancy, being motivated to birth their baby gently and sacredly and with respect, that they were able to rediscover and have more pleasure postpartum than they ever did before. So the letters I get, the words, I think this is so true. And by not connecting birth, to our sexuality, we've done a disservice to women in so many ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. And I think that it can be a gradual process, so not necessarily your first birth experience. It might happen over several birth experiences, that you just go deeper and deeper into connecting with, as you say, reclaiming your body, and therefore it has also an effect on your future sexual relationships and how you feel in your body.
Totally. And we're just in that time where a lot of people, like young women, aren't always getting all their cycles right. We're in a time where we often repress a lot of our body functions. And so when we come to birth, we have to relearn our body. We have to reconnect to its fullness. And it's just this brilliant opportunity. I often joke, could you imagine if we said to men that they were the ones giving birth and birth wasn't sexual? So something was going to happen in their penis for about 2 hours to 2 days, but it has nothing to do with sex. Most men would do what you're doing. They'd laugh because there's no way they'd go 48 hours with sensations in their penis and not think about sex. But you think about it, that we've created generations of women that we've disconnected ourselves from that ability. And the thought that it could be sexual is kind of gross for some people when you think about it, not as sexual, and it's not the intimacy that you would have with a partner. I'd rather say this is about loving your baby into the world. This is about connecting with this sacredness that we have within ourselves as women, that we can trigger love in different ways. And when we can fully allow ourselves to open physically, emotionally, and spiritually and birth fully, we're just really birthing in deep love. It's such a beautiful experience.
It's really precious to hear you speak like this. Debra, maybe to conclude, you can tell us a little bit about the course that you've created to help women feel more excited about a pleasurable birth.
Yes, thank you. Well, it's still in development. We hope that it'll be out the beginning of the new year. It's been another really long labor process. I think we're pushing this big baby out right now. And it's called Pain to Power Childbirth, because I really do want to honor that for many women, pain and fear and are huge issues, and pain is can be a part of birth, but there are many ways to transform pain to power and pleasure. So ours will be a 12-week online class where you'll get all the basics from Enjoy and Lamaze International, as well as a huge bunch of information where we'll take you on exploring and really honoring your sexuality and how you can find pleasure and look at birth in new ways. So people can find out about it and get on our mailing list already, so you're the first to receive all our free videos that will go out soon off of orgasmicbirth.com.
Fantastic, Debra. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom about pleasurable childbirth and about sexuality and about your new course. And I wish you the very best for your online conference. And may you continue to do this wonderful work in supporting women to feel good about birth.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been truly an honor to be here with you and all your viewers. So I wish everyone there that's pregnant a very pleasurable birth.
Thank you, Debra.